Davis steps under center. Gibson and McClendon behind it. Davis with motion by Richard. Will give the ball to McClendon. He leaps. Oh, he doesn't get in. He fumbled the football. Carolina holds. The game is over. And Carolina has won the game.
Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way. At the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory.
Left side of the line. Hood standing to Williams' right. Williams gonna throw. One-on-one. Davis has it. Touchdown. Carolina wins. Carolina is the Coastal Division champion. Bernard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio, he's at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio is going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me? Connor Barth for the possible win. Snap, spot, kick away, high enough, long enough. It's good! It's good! Carolina has won the game on a 42-yard field goal by freshman Hunter Barth. Good gosh, dirty!
This is the Heel Tough Blog Podcast, Big Heads Media Podcast. Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. We are back for another game week. The Tar Heels' second bye of the season has come and gone, and that means that the Tar Heels have hit the home stretch of the 2019 season. They enter at 4-5. And we'll now look to get to a bowl game. So we'll start with this week's opening drive, where we'll discuss the fact that the Tar Heels are currently out of the ACC Coastal race. It pretty much it hindered on one game. We needed Virginia to lose to Georgia Tech. They had a chance. Georgia Tech played really well against Virginia in Virginia. But unfortunately, the Cavaliers pulled out the victory 33-28. And so that eliminated the Tar Heels. Of course, you know that Virginia Tech also beat Wake Forest, which would have meant that they would have had to lose their last two before they finished up the season against the Virginia Cavaliers, but that doesn't matter now with Virginia winning. So really, you know, with this, I think what needs to be discussed here is that, you know, even though the Tar Heels are not going to be in Charlotte competing for the ACC championship, this is not something that Tar Heel fans should really be overly distraught about, because this was not a place that many people thought we'd see them this year.
By the way, my name is Josh. Thank you for the introduction in the podcast.
Oh, there
today.
we go.
This is look. This is why the Virginia game that was their chance to make the Coastal or to make the ACC championship game, was if they won that game. We knew that going in, because if they lost, they were going to need a lot of chaos. Mm-hmm. And also win their final two ACC games to even get to Charlotte. But look, it sucks, because when you're in the moment of playing for that, you want that. It's year one. And this is a team that won 5 games the previous 2 years.
Yeah, you're right.
And so this was not expected. So they're way ahead of schedule on the field and off the field in recruiting. The good news is that you can tell by all their losses, they're close. It's not like we're way off. There could have been a chance with how much Larry Fedora left in terms of talent. Because there wasn't a lot of talent in certain areas, because we haven't seen them produce.
Defensively,
defensively.
You're right.
And so that's the thing you're going to take away from Carolina is they've played every team close,
and with depth that's just been thinning the whole season, especially as we've gotten through ACC play.
And so they've battled injuries, you name it, and they've still played every team to the wire. A lot of that is the improved coaching, but also it's just these guys, they've bought in, and their effort is at an all-time high. And so the good news is, going into next year, there's actually going to be pressure on this team, because this team, if they can win 2 of their final 3, it's going to go to a bowl game.
Right.
Almost everybody of significance is back. You're going to lose some guys along the defense. Right. But you're bringing in another a loaded recruiting class, so this team will probably be picked to make the ACC title game next year, which I don't think anyone thought going into year 2. So it just kind of shows you what Mac Brown has done his first fall in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, when you talk about the close losses, it definitely hurts because you look at games like Virginia Tech is the big one where you were so close. If you win that game, it's a little bit different. But I agree. I think the Tar Heels are still sitting in a good spot. And you talked about it now. You just have to win 2 of your last 3, and that'll start on Thursday night against Pitt. Tar Heels, of course, as you guys know, are undefeated 6-0 against Pitt since they entered the ACC back in 2013. The most interesting thing about those 6 games, all 6 of those wins have been by 1 possession. So this is a game that has gone the Tar Heels' way, but it's been close every single time. The last 2 meetings that were in Pittsburgh have also been on Thursday nights, so it's not like this is foreign territory. Of course, the Tar Heels back in 2015, the Dream season won 26-19, headlined by the great touchdown pass from Marquise Williams to Ryan Switzer after he got face masked, still found a way to throw it down the field. And then, of course, the 34-31 win back in 2017, where, of course, Anthony Ratliff-Williams took back the opening kick and Nathan Elliott had the best game of his career. So, this seems like it sets up relatively well for the Tar Heels to have success. One thing that's also really interesting in this game, this is, believe it or not, the first time in Mac Brown's 31-year head coaching career that he will coach a game against the Pittsburgh Panthers. He has never coached against Pittsburgh at any of his stops, including App State and Tulane. So that's something interesting. So I guess, this is the question that I wanted to ask. Do you think that this game will be affected by what has happened over the past few years since Pittsburgh moved into the ACC? Do you think the Larry Fedora's success against Pittsburgh will play a factor in this game, or do you think that this is pretty much, the page is turned, now it's, throw all those records out the window, it's a totally different game? No,
it's totally different because you've got Mac Brown and what the guys are doing now, but also Pittsburgh's a lot better than they have been in years past. I know last year they made the ACC.
Went to the ACC championship game last year.
Basically by default. But Pat Narduzzi has his team playing what he wants to do. They're going to grind the games out, run the ball. Their defense is phenomenal, one of the best in all of college football. And so the personnel is different than what you have with Larry Fedora. The coaching is different. There's a lot of times we quite frankly should have blown Pittsburgh out, but the coaching staff didn't allow it. That game at Pittsburgh 2015, Carolina had a double-digit lead, got conservative, and the game got close for no reason. And so I think it plays somewhat of a factor maybe on Pittsburgh's mind just because they're trying to get over the hump of beating Carolina. But for this Tar Heel team, I don't think Mac Brown's saying, well, Larry never lost to him, and this is going to be the reason why we're not going to lose. Carolina's got to go out there and they got to play well. It's not going to be easy. It's on the road. It's not a short week because they've had a bye, but it's going to be prime time, all that kind of stuff. So if they don't show up and perform what they did previous 6 years ain't going to matter.
Well, look at their defense, like you said. Allowing just 280 yards per game, one of the better defenses in the country. This is kind of what we've been waiting for from Pat Narduzzi, right? This was what he was brought in to do at Pittsburgh. Because he was just so successful with it when he was back at Michigan State, and we're finally starting to see it. You mentioned to me before the show that one of your biggest concerns is protecting Sam Howell. That's been a concern all season, but especially in this game because you're facing the number 2 pass rushing team in the country right now, number 2 team in sacks in Pittsburgh. And we saw the last time they went up against a team that was ranked highly in the country. That was Virginia Tech, and that was not a good look for Carolina.
Yeah. No, if they cannot protect Sam, it's going to be a long night Thursday night. And it's just that simple. They're second in the country in sacks behind the Ohio State. Ohio State has 41. Pittsburgh has 40. So they're right there. Mm-hmm. And they've got the big reason why is because they've fixed the secondary to where they can put their corners on an island because they're going to get enough pressure to make the quarterback either get sacked or make bad decisions. And they feasted on that. You're right. Pat Narduzzi, when he was at Michigan State, that was a top 5 defense guaranteed year in, year out. Mm-hmm. We knew that going in every year. They're going to be really damn good on the defensive side of the football. Well, that was why Michigan State got on the map nationally was because of that defense with their running game.
Right.
when he took the job at Pittsburgh, it took him a while to get that. They were having to win shootouts most of the years. A couple of years ago, they had the second worst pass defense in college football.
And we remember. Yeah, well, they had a back-to-back years. 2017, they were terrible. And then I believe, weren't they the worst team in the country pass defense-wise when they came into that game against Trubisky and Switzer, where they both just went nuts? I mean, that secondary was god-awful. We remember that. And, man, we picked them apart that day. So, yeah, I think, I think you're right that the fact that they've got it figured out is pretty amazing on Narduzzi's part, because even last year they really weren't all that great. It's huge improvement this year.
And so for Carolina, we've seen the offensive line has its problems. It was very good against Virginia 2 weeks ago. Nick Polino figures to play a little bit more in this game.
Right.
And this feels like the perfect time for him to be back, because you're going to need him at center, calling the shots, making the adjustment at the line of scrimmage. Not that Brian Anderson hasn't done a bad job. You just trust Nick Polino a lot better.
Well, and you can always plug Nick Polino in at that left guard spot where he played, most of his career, and where right now, I mean, Carolina's just having, their struggles at the guard spots. I mean, look, Marcus McKeithen's played most of the year. It's hard to kind of take him off the field because he's been so effective in run blocking situations, but as a pass protector, he just hasn't been all that great so far this season. But really, none of them have been all that great so far this season. Charlie Heck might be your only guy that's really just still been consistent. The rest of the group has really struggled. And look, I mean, they're going to have to protect him because they've got 3 guys that right now are over 6.5 sacks. There's another guy that has 4.5, 3.5. I mean, you're just seeing all these huge numbers of guys that are getting in the backfield. And, I mean, tackles for loss, the numbers are huge as well. It's weird, though, because, I mean, you look at what they do best. If you look at the statistics, it's their run defense. They're allowing 85.9 yards per game on the ground. That is amazing. That is really good. And that's, look, at this point, is it too far to say that it's strength against strength in this game for the Tar Heels? Because it seems like at this point we can call the Tar Heels running game the strength of this offense.
Yeah, no, it's really going to be, will versus will. Carolina is going to want to run the football. They have to. You don't want to put Sam Howell in a situation where you got to go throw it 50 times. This isn't NCAA 14 where he can pick apart a defense and not run the football like I do.
Oh,
but
there we go.
I mean, it's something that. The good thing is I think Carolina's got a stable of backs that they can have success because you got 3 guys that you feel confident if you hand the rock to, you're going to get yards. Javonte Williams, is not going to get tackled at first contact. Michael Carter seems to finally be more confident in terms of finding holes and hitting them. And Antonio Williams, when he touches the ball, it feels like it's always a big play because he doesn't touch the ball a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And that's why it comes back to the offensive line to where they've got to get movement up front because if not, then these guys are going to get stop short, and you're going to put Sam Howell on a lot of 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8s, and that is not going to bode well for you because they're going to load up on the pass rush, and you're going to ask your wide receivers to make plays on the outside, which we've seen that group struggle at times.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I mean, Carolina has definitely, they've definitely struggled with that kind of stuff. I mean, look, here's the thing about their running game, though. I mean, there is some concern with Javonte Williams. From what I heard from last night and really from everything throughout the day, Javonte is going to play, and he's probably still going to play a lot. We saw it when we were, watching. You of course were watching the game at home. Me from the stadium with Javonte. I mean, there was definitely something noticeably wrong with him a couple of times after some big carries the other night against Virginia, and so. I think we'll see a heavier dose of Michael Carter than we've seen in the last few games. I feel like he'll probably take the bulk of the carries just to try to keep Javonte from taking more hits. But also, I mean, Antonio Williams feels like a guy that's going to be pretty key in this game. He's a guy that just hasn't received a ton of carries so far this season. But you're right. When he's seen those carries, he's been effective. And so he's going to have to be effective in this game. I think, Pittsburgh, they've been good so far. But look, Carolina's done a really good job against some of these teams that have been really good run defense teams. Duke, and Virginia, back-to-back. They've ran the ball extremely well against teams that, coming in, we said, okay, you're probably not going to be able to run on them as successfully as you want. No, they ran at will. Even Mac Brown said last night on Mac Brown Live that, he didn't expect them to run that well against Virginia. It happened, and all of a sudden he said, okay, well, we got to keep running the ball. That was what he told Phil Longo. But one of the things that's interesting because of how well they're able to stop the run, that's going to mean you got to be able to throw the football successfully. But because they get so much pressure on the quarterback, they blitz a lot more. It's going to leave one-on-one coverage on the outside for the Tar Heel wide receivers. Talked about Ziami Brown the last time he was out there. Of course, 202 yards, 3 touchdowns on 6 receptions. He had a huge game against Virginia. Against man defense, which he's going to see a lot of against Pittsburgh, you would think him and a guy like Bo Corrales on the outside, Antone Green, they're going to have big nights if Carolina wants to pull out this victory. Yeah,
they've got to make plays on the football. Drops has been an issue for this core. And it's really been an inopportune time to think about the final drive in the Virginia game. You dropped what would have been a 4th down conversion to keep the drive alive. Mm-hmm. Sam's going to get the ball to you because he is very good at those kind of situations, putting the ball up for you to go make a play.
Especially deep balls.
Yeah, they've just got to be strong enough to go make a play. And when they get a guy one-on-one, use a double move or something like that to beat him on a route because these corners, like I said, they're much more improved. And also, you just got to be a lot more quicker because there's not going to be a whole lot of time for Sam Howell. He's not going to have 5, 6, 7 seconds for you to get out of your break. Right. It's going to be 2 to 3 seconds. This feels like a game where you may see the passing game, which you saw at South Carolina, which was a lot of quick stuff, just get the ball out of his hands because you don't feel like you're going to have that kind of time to give some of your long developing routes to break open. So, and that may work in this game. It worked against South Carolina, a team that we had worries if we were going to go to pass protect.
It worked against Duke. We saw it again, and it was successful.
And if you do that, then it's going to set stuff up for you to go to attack the field vertically later in the ball game. It's just got to be a conscious effort on what you want to do.
Well, I mean that when you talk about getting the short game going, that means Daz Newsom's going to have to be a big part early in the game. I mean that's the guy that I feel like you want to get the ball to early. Him, Toe Groves as well. We just didn't see that a whole lot against Virginia. And, I mean, look, the thing is they were so successful going down the field that you didn't have to see that. In this game, like you said, the pass rush is at a different level. This team is just getting after the quarterback as good as anybody in the country, and that's with losing one of their best pass rushers early in the season. They're still finding ways to get to the quarterback. So I agree. They're going to have to get the ball out quick. And that's another reason why they're going to have to be able to run the ball a little bit better because if you got these guys coming downhill on these blitzes, one of the better ways to get them, to back off the line a little bit and stop blitzing so much is to run those delayed draws that can kill them that we've seen Carolina run so successfully over the past couple of weeks. So we'll see Carolina with a huge matchup against Pittsburgh on Thursday night. And, of course, when you talk about some of the guys that will be active or inactive, Javonte Williams will be active after practicing all week. Honestly, it probably seems like the way they were talking, if they didn't have the bye week, he probably wouldn't have played. So that was huge for Carolina to have that bye week when they did. Javonte Williams looks like he'll be good to go. And then, of course, Trey Morrison, Nick Polino, and Miles Woolfolk, all the guys returned in the game against Virginia. They didn't play really significant roles. Trey Morrison was, he started the game, but really struggled, so they kind of took him off the field, and we didn't really see a whole lot of them. DeAndre Hollins played a lot more towards the end of the game with Morrison subbing in. That's kind of the role that I think we're going to see him in again, just based on what we heard from the coaching staff yesterday. A lot of the guys are trying to get back to full strength, but more than likely won't be able to get back to full strength maybe until the bowl game when they have, 2-3 weeks off at a time instead of just a 1 week. So they'll be limited. Expect them to have some limited roles, be able to sub in, but don't expect them to be back in full capacity. As for everybody else, they're kind of just where they're at, with their injuries. Most guys are still out, so unfortunately not getting too much back, but still some help, and hopefully with another week or so, those guys will be able to play more extended roles as we go along. Game night, low 30s. Do you think the temperature is going to have any effect on these guys? I mean, we saw them play against Virginia. It didn't seem like there was any issues. I mean, you always say, well, it's harder to catch the ball in the cold or whatever. Still threw for 353 yards. I don't think there's going to be any major concern, but do you?
No, it's football weather. It's November. It's supposed to be cold. You're going to be up there in the Northeast or whatever region you want to call Pittsburgh. So you just go play. I mean, I get tired of seeing these people complain about the weather. Just play.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
I mean, while I'm sitting on my ass in the warm house, yeah. I'm gonna complain about them complaining. But I mean, look, it's I like football in the cold. It's a lot better. You got to see a fun game in Green Bay this past week with the Panthers and Packers playing in the snow.
It is not going to snow in Pittsburgh, folks. So, clear night.
And I mean, look, the last 2 times we've played them on Thursday night in their place, it's been late in the season, and it hasn't been a problem before.
Right.
I don't think it'll be a problem for these guys. So.
Right. So Pittsburgh comes in with a 51.2% chance to win, basically a toss-up according to the ESPN FPI. So they are taking Carolina to lose the game. The good news is Carolina is projected to win the last 2, but let's do our official predictions for this game.
Oh, you want me to go first?
You usually always go first because you just decide I'm going to go first, and then you just make your pick. But, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the last time I had to pick a game, I had the unpopular opinion of picking Virginia to beat Carolina. I feel the same way this week. I think Pittsburgh wins, which puts Carolina in a hole of having to win their final 2 to make a bowl game. I trust Pittsburgh's defense more than I trust Carolina. So I think that's what this game's going to come down to. I feel this game's going to be a 24-20 kind of ball game. We've seen this Carolina defense at times rise to the occasion and play really well. Then they have games like Virginia where they couldn't stop an offense that was inept on the road all season long.
Right.
And that's why I'm leaning Pittsburgh. The pass rush, their ability to stop the run, I think it's going to, I'm not going to say overwhelm this Carolina offense. I think it's just going to stymie it enough. I think they'll keep Sam Howell on check as good as any team in the Coastal has all year long to make 1 or 2 extra plays and win a close ball game.
Well, we didn't really talk at all about Pittsburgh's offense versus Carolina's defense. But Pittsburgh's offense
is not
kind of their Achilles heel.
It's not flashy, but that's what Pat Narduzzi wants. They're going to shorten the game because they're going to run the ball.
I get it.
And Pickett, his numbers aren't great, but he knows how to win these kind of games. He's won. He beat Miami 2 years ago when they were top 2 in the country.
That's pretty much the only significant game he's won.
He took them to the ACC championship game a year ago, so he's been around. The national spotlight isn't going to face him. And, I mean, like I said, their offense isn't great, but you can't trust Carolina's defense to go up there and stop them.
Well, my biggest concern about them, like if I'm a national person, kind of looking into Pittsburgh, my biggest concern is not the fact of Kenny Pickett struggling, he kind of just is what he is. Like, we know he's a guy that's going to make some throws, but he's not a guy that's ultimately going to win you a game. He's a game manager. That's pretty much what he is, and that's fine. My biggest problem for Pittsburgh is in years past, you've always had at least one running back that is going to get you over 1,000 yards. Last year, they had 2 guys that rushed for over 1,000 yards. This year, they don't have a guy that's at 500 yards at this point in the season. A.J. Davis is their leading ball carrier with 89 carries for 407 yards and just 3 touchdowns. So that's the concern for Pittsburgh fans, in my opinion, if you're going into this game, a team that doesn't run the ball well. And, of course, we've known in the past that's what's hurt Carolina. Now, the thing is how does Carolina's inexperienced secondary match up against a guy in Kenny Pickett that really, hasn't won many significant games in his career. He hasn't had to be the guy. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, they got a really good wide receiver in Tyseer Mack, who's had a pretty solid year. But, ultimately, I think, Carolina matches up pretty well with Pittsburgh. I think this is a game that, when you look at it on paper, most people would say Pittsburgh should probably win, mainly just based on the record coming in. This is a huge game for Pittsburgh as well, because if they win this game, they're going to keep themselves right in the thick of that ACC Coastal race. It pretty much seems like, to me, everybody's kind of cast Pittsburgh off and pretty much made this Virginia Tech at the end of the year is going to decide the Coastal. I don't think it's really that easy. I'm kind of with you with just how much they've improved defensively. But the thing about it is Carolina's just had this team's number throughout all these years. I mean, Larry Fedora, even last year, found a way to beat them when this team was at its worst. And, I feel like they're just not really going to have much of an answer for, this Sam Howell-led offense in the fourth quarter. I think that's what this game's going to come down to. Sam Howell is a guy that thrives in the fourth quarter, and I think that, playing in close games for Carolina is going to pay off. I think they pull out a victory. It's going to be very close. I feel like this is probably one of those 21-20 type of games. Like this is going to be a very weird game. That's what I'm going to go with as my official score prediction. 21-20, Carolina takes the victory over Pittsburgh. Do you have a physical score prediction?
Yeah, 24-20. Do you not listen?
I didn't hear you say 24-20.
Yeah, I said 24-20 Pittsburgh.
Oh, there we go. So I don't listen. There's your answer right there. So I know you're taking Pittsburgh, but if Carolina wins, who's the person that we're going to be talking about on the recap podcast? And Sam Howell is off limits. Cannot pick Sam Howell or Chaz Surratt defensively. It's got to be outside the box. Those are too easy. That's our running rule here.
I'll go with the law firm, the running backs. I think as a position group, they would have a pretty big hand in this win, because if they can't run the ball, they're not going to win. It's that simple. I love Sam Howell. He's not going to go out there and throw 5 touchdowns and 500 yards against Pittsburgh.
If he does,
they
with
give
as
him
much
the Heisman
pressure as he's going to be under,
give him the Heisman.
You might as well put him right in the chase.
This feels like a game that if Carolina wants to win, just those backs got to be special. And they've been special all year long at certain times. Duke game, they were a really big part of why they were able to win the ball game, their ability to run the football.
Game against Virginia, that's the reason they were in it. So, I agree.
But also, outside the running backs, it would be Sam Howell and Chaz Surratt.
Yeah, we can't pick them. Like, that's just too easy. I'm going to go with Daz Newsome. I think, you talked about having to get the quick passing game going against a pass rush that is as fierce as Pittsburgh. I think Daz Newsome's going to be your guy that you're going to have to go to early in the game. I think, they'll run some of those quick outside, curl routes or comeback routes that have worked to get the ball out quickly. But I feel like your slot receiver is always your best friend in those types of moments. And the other thing I'd like to see the tight end position come alive a little bit. We haven't really seen that much this year. We saw it a little bit against Virginia Tech with Garrett Walston. But I feel like if that position can come alive and become that easy safety valve in a game like this, that could be huge for Carolina. So that's who I think we'll be talking about. You only went with the offensive. Usually you're the guy that likes to go with the defensive. Do we have a defensive person that we wanted to throw?
Aaron Crawford and Strobridge got to bring their jockstrap. They were not good against Virginia.
I think Strobridge will bounce back. That was going to be my guy. I think he's going to bounce back because he's heard it. I'm assuming he's heard it not only from the media but also from the coaching staff about that performance.
And more importantly, me. He heard it from me.
That was the media. We were including ourselves in the media. We're trying to act like we're media members. If you consider us media members, thank you.
I mean, I personally texted him and told him I need you to show up. So we're on that level.
There you go. Oh yeah. So you went out there and worked with him in practice, right?
Well, I was showing him a couple moves.
Yeah, Tim Cross just let you take over. You take over.
I told him, let me get this work. And then I just showed him. I taught him what I was taught in 8th grade middle school football.
Here we go.
Some stuff I cannot repeat on air.
Oh, man. I actually know exactly what you're talking about from the stories as well. But we will not talk about that because that is not PG-13. 13 podcast.
I mean, unless you want to make it an explicit podcast,
we're not going to do that. We've come close before. We came close with the basketball podcast as well. So we're opening it up a little bit. I think we're becoming a little too comfortable with each other on this podcast. But it's apparently, hey, people are giving us rave reviews. They're liking the camaraderie between the two. I'm like, yeah, you're liking the camaraderie now, but things could get a little hairy as we're going along here. But, yeah, Carolina, of course, kickoff at 8 o'clock. You guys know where it is, all the Thursday night games. ESPN, Adam Amin, Matt Hasselbeck, and we get Pat McAfee, who will be back. Ben Kernan will be getting a lot of love on Thursday night, so that should be great. Hopefully not too much love, though. Hopefully the Tar Heels offense is able to play well. You never know. Max said yesterday during the radio show he was with us for the Virginia game. He was expecting an extremely low-scoring battle, and he was like, wow, this is not what I expected. So who knows? Maybe Carolina comes out. I mean, we've seen the last couple of years, this game has been in the 30s. So you never really know with these two, but we'll see. Feels like it'll be a low-scoring battle, so both defenses will have to show up. So that will take us to the 40-yard dash as we close down this edition of the Heel Tough Blog podcast. And so we close it down, and we'll start with 2020 three-star defensive tackle Octavius Oxendine. He was, of course, an official visitor back during the Duke game. He will make his official decision on the first day of the early signing period. He announced that earlier last week. And, of course, his decision will come on December 18th. Carolina expected to be one of the finalists, but not the favorite going in. I believe that is, as of right now, Kentucky, Louisville also in the conversation as well. There are a couple other schools. But it feels like it's probably the in-state schools. Carolina maybe could sneak in there. But the thing is, again, there's just so many guys already committed on that defensive line. 5, 6 if you count Kamen Rucker, but we're kind of counting Kamen as more of an outside linebacker type. So, that's one area where we don't really know if the Tar Heels are looking to take on anybody else. But they did have him on for an official visit. And then, of course, that same week during the Duke game, they also had Braden Swinson, the three-star strong side defensive end from the state of Georgia on campus. So Carolina might still be looking to take on another defensive lineman in this class. So don't count it out just yet, but again, don't go in overly confident to that decision. We'll, of course, keep you updated. 2020 4-star outside linebacker Trenton Simpson. Of course, we told you guys that we were on a commitment watch. It still is, at this point, we're pretty much on commitment watch with him for, the rest of the early signing period. He told Deanna King, who works for NC Preps, also does some stuff for Tar Heel Illustrated. She does a great job for them. He told her after the visit that this could go all the way up until the early signing period. And basically what the thinking is that this is pretty much based on him wanting to try to get a scholarship offer from Clemson beforehand. Now, we don't know if he gets that scholarship offer. I mean, it seems like at this point, if he gets the offer, he's probably going to shut it down and immediately commit to Clemson. But again, we're not 100% sure. He might just want that offer to at least consider that, and then we'll make his decision between Carolina and Clemson. But that is all based on 2020 5-star inside linebacker Justin Flowe's decision. Now, Justin Flowe is visiting Clemson this weekend, so if that official visit goes well, a lot of people believe that could be basically the final stone in the gauntlet for Clemson, and that would pretty much lock him up. They are only taking on one linebacker in this class. They've got a ton of guys already committed in the class that ranks number 1 in the nation. So they're only taking on one more linebacker. If Flo wants to go to Clemson, he will go to Clemson. If he goes elsewhere, of course, he took an official visit to Miami, the other team that's really making a push for him because he is out from out in California, is USC. But Clemson looks to be the favorite. Miami is a team that, is starting to turn things in the right direction. I think at this point, they might actually be a little bit of a bigger threat to Clemson than USC, because USC, at this point, we just don't really know what's going on with USC. We don't know if they're going to stick with Clay Helton. We don't know if they're going to let Clay Helton go. So, that kind of makes it confusing. So right now, it looks pretty promising that Flo will probably go to Clemson when it's all said and done, and that would mean that Trenton Simpson would then be a strong lean to Carolina, and at that point, we would pretty much be on full commitment watch, and we don't know, then if he's going to host a commitment ceremony like he did back in the summer when he committed to Auburn, or if he would just go ahead and announce it then. So, of course, we'll keep you updated on that as well. And then the other big news, the Mercer game has been set for a 3:30 afternoon kick on November 23rd. That's, of course, Senior Day for the Tar Heels. This will be the first time since 1983 that the Tar Heels will not play a single noon or 12:30 kickoff game at home in a season. So Carolina, this is what you guys were asking for. It's worked out very well this season. Mac Brown coming back seems to have had a pretty huge effect. This is a team that they want on television, and they want them in the afternoon slots as opposed to those early kick times. So, that's worked out very well. And, of course, that game against Mercer is not sold out to this point, but is closing in. So if you can make it out there, it's going to be a great environment to close down the 2019 home season at Kenan Stadium. Every game has been sold out this year. The environments have been unbelievable, and we'll see if the Tar Heels can play in front of another packed crowd to close out the home regular season schedule before, of course, heading to Raleigh the next weekend against NC State to close out the regular season. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Heel Tough Blog podcast. Of course, make sure you go to HeelToughBlog.com to get all your news on Tar Heel football. We've got the article up there about Sam Howell, where he ranks amongst current Tar Heel quarterbacks. That's current NCAA quarterbacks. That's an opinionated article, so of course that doesn't mean that there's any statistics or anything that are saying this is his exact ranking. But of course, we want you guys to go on, give it a read, tell us where you think Sam Howell ranks at this point so far in his career. Do you see him as a top 5 guy in college football, top 10, top 15, top 25? Wherever you see him, let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys on that. Read the article about Jacoby Criswell. I know there was some concern after he got the offer from Auburn. There's, he as he told us, there's not really a huge reason to be concerned. So go back, read all of his comments, and hear what he had to say about that offer. And then, of course, we got the scouting report that is back. We were off the previous week because I was down in Daytona. I was back this past week, got to go out and see the youngest guy that we've scouted so far this season in the 2022 class, 5-star wide receiver Shalik Knotts. So go ahead and read that about his performance in Monroe's final regular season game at home, on the road against Parkwood, and read, what Carolina could be getting if they end up landing one of the better players in the 2022 class. And, so those are the major football articles that are online. Of course, we got basketball articles online that you guys can read. If you want to go back and read my analysis of the UNC Wilmington game, you can do that. You can read Josh's recap of the UNC Wilmington game. 3 things that we learned from the game? There we go. You can talk in this part.
This is your part, so I was letting you talk.
No, it's fine. I asked you a question. You can answer.
Yeah.
There you go. So, 3 things that we learned from that game. Of course, we will have the preview coming out, not only the podcast, which I'll tell you about in a second, but we're going to have the article online to preview the Gardner-Webb game. That should be up, Thursday? Or are you going to get that out Friday?
It'll be up Friday morning.
Friday morning will be the preview for that Gardner-Webb game. And then, of course, you guys, we encourage you to go and check out the Roy's Boys podcast. There is a tab on the Heel Tough blog page for it. Just go up to the top, right next to where you find the Heel Tough blog podcast tab. You can find the Roy's Boys podcast tab and go back, listen to our recap of the Wilmington game. If you want to go back and even listen to the recap of the Notre Dame game, you can do that. And then we will have the preview for the Gardner-Webb game going up soon. Of course, it's going to be a really exciting time because that's right. Coming up, we got the battle for Atlantis. So we're going to be doing a ton of podcasts and a ton of writing as well. So it's going to be an exciting time. Make sure you guys check that out. HeelToughBlog.com is where you can check out all of that. So want to thank Josh for being with me again here today. Want to thank you guys for listening. And as always, go Tar Heels!